The road to Black Summit was narrower than I remembered. It wound through the mountains like something trying to escape its own shape, curling and twisting until the trees pressed so close to the car windows that their branches scraped the glass. My father used to say the mountain didn't like visitors. I always thought he meant the weather or the isolation, or the way the fog clung to the cliffs like a living thing. Now, returning after his death, I realized he might have meant it literally. The old observatory appeared at the end of the road. A squat stone structure with a domed roof, perched on the cliff's edge like a watchful eye. The place had been abandoned for years before my father bought it, and it looked even more forgotten now. The windows were dark. The dome was rusted. The front door hung slightly open, as if someone had slipped inside moments before I arrived. I stepped out of the car. The air was colder here, unnaturally so. The wind carried no sound, no birds, no insects, not even the distant hum of the forest. Just silence, heavy, expectant silence. It sat on the stone steps leading to the observatory, perfectly still, black fur, sleek and unblemished, eyes like polished amber. But what froze me wasn't the cat itself, it was the shadow beneath it. The cat had two. One lay where it should, cast by the weak afternoon sun. The other stretched in the opposite direction, darker, sharper, as if cut from a different world. It didn't move with the wind. It didn't shift when the cat did. It simply existed, wrong in a way I felt in my teeth. The cat blinked once, slowly, as if acknowledging me. "Shoo," I muttered, stepping forward. It didn't move. Instead, the second shadow twitched, a small, jerking motion like a hand flexing. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The cat tilted its head, studying me with an intelligence that felt uncomfortably human. Then it turned and slipped inside the observatory through the open door. I hesitated. Every instinct told me to get back in the car, drive down the mountain, and never return. But the observatory was mine now, my father's last possession. His last secret, and I had come here for answers. Answers he never gave me while he was alive inside. The air was stale and cold. Dust coated everything. The main hall was filled with old equipment, telescopes, star charts, notebooks stacked in uneven piles. My father's handwriting covered the walls in chalk, equations, diagrams, sketches of constellations I didn't recognize. And there, sitting atop a stack of papers, was the cat. Its two shadows stretched across the floor like cracks in reality. I approached slowly. The cat didn't run. It didn't hiss. It simply watched me unblinking, as if waiting for me to notice something. That's when I saw the notebook beneath its paws, my father's journal. The last entry was dated 3 days before he died. It watches from the split. It knows when I look away. The cat is only the beginning. My skin crawled. The cat's second shadow twitched again. Longer this time, stretching toward me like a reaching limb, and for the first time I heard something in the silence. A whisper. Not from the cat, from the shadow. I didn't move at first. I couldn't. The whisper was so faint I almost convinced myself it was the wind slipping through a crack in the dome. But there was no wind inside the observatory. The air was still, heavy, stale with dust and something older. The cat's second shadow stretched toward me again, inch by inch, like a tendril testing the air. "Stop," I whispered. The shadow froze. The cat blinked, slow and deliberate, as if acknowledging a command I hadn't meant to give. I forced myself to look away from it and focused on my father's journal. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting, not the neat, meticulous script I remembered from his letters. This was different, desperate, uneven, words scratched into the paper as if he'd been writing in the dark. I flipped back a few pages. It appeared after the first observation. The cat is not the anomaly, it is the indicator. The split is widening. I am not alone in my own shadow. My throat tightened. I looked up. The cat was still watching me, but its second shadow had retreated, curling neatly beneath it like a folded limb. "What are you?" I murmured. The cat tilted its head, and for a moment, just a moment, I felt something brush the back of my neck, a cold fingertip, a breath, a presence. I spun around. Nothing. Just the empty hall, the silent equipment, the chalk-covered walls. But the whisper came again. Not from behind me, from below. I crouched, pressing my ear to the floorboards. The wood was cold, colder than it should have been, and beneath it, faint but unmistakable, was a sound like someone speaking through a mouth full of soil. A single word. My name. I jerked back, heart pounding. The cat's amber eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, reflecting something I couldn't see. Is this what he meant? I whispered. Is this what drove him mad? The cat stood, stretched, and padded toward the far end of the hall. Its normal shadow followed. Its second shadow lagged behind, stretching unnaturally long as if reluctant to move. It stopped at a metal hatch in the floor, one I hadn't noticed before. The hatch was bolted shut, rusted around the edges, with a heavy padlock securing it. The cat sat beside it and looked at me. You want me to open it? I asked. The cat blinked once. The second shadow blinked too. I stepped closer, feeling the temperature drop with every foot. My breath fogged in the air. The padlock was old, but not broken. My father must have sealed this himself. I hesitated. Then the whisper came again, louder this time, clearer, rising from beneath the hatch like a voice pressed against the underside of the world. Daniel. My blood ran cold. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a stack of star charts. The cat didn't move. It simply watched me, patient. I forced myself to breathe. No, I said. Not tonight. I grabbed my bag, my jacket, anything to get me out of that room. The cat didn't follow. It simply turned its head, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. As I reached the door, I glanced back one last time. The cat sat perfectly still, but its second shadow was no longer beneath it. It was standing upright, watching me leave. I slept in the observatory's small bedroom that night, though slept is generous. The mattress was thin, the air too cold, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw that second shadow standing upright, watching me with a patience that felt older than the mountain itself. I left the door cracked open. I told myself it was so I could hear if anyone or anything entered the hall. But the truth was simpler. I didn't want to be sealed in a room alone. The silence pressed against the walls like a weight. Even the old building didn't creak. No settling wood, no shifting pipes, just stillness. Around midnight, I heard the first sound. A soft tap, then another. Not footsteps, not scratching. Something more deliberate, like a knuckle tapping gently on glass. Tap, tap, a tap. I sat up, heart pounding. The sound came from the hallway, steady and rhythmic, as if someone were knocking on a window that wasn't there. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped into the hall. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating dust, motes suspended in the air. The tapping stopped instantly, as if whatever was making it had been waiting for me to listen. Hello, I whispered. My voice sounded wrong in the silence, too loud, too fragile. No answer. I swept the flashlight across the hall. The cat was sitting at the far end, near the hatch, its amber eyes glowing faintly. Its normal shadow lay beneath it. Its second shadow was gone. A chill crawled up my spine. Where is it? I whispered. The cat blinked. Then I heard it behind me, a whisper so close it brushed my ear. Daniel. I spun around, flashlight shaking in my hand. The beam landed on the wall, bare, empty, cold, but the whisper came again, this time from the floor. I lowered the light. The second shadow was there, flat against the floorboards, stretched thin like a stain, but it wasn't mimicking the cat. It wasn't mimicking anything. It was moving on its own, sliding across the wood like spilled ink. It stopped at my feet and rose. Not fully, just enough to form the suggestion of a head, a shoulder, the outline of something vaguely human but wrong in every proportion. I stumbled back, breath caught in my throat. The shadow tilted its head, then it reached toward me. Not with a hand, with a shape that only resembled one if you squinted, if you forced your mind to make sense of something that didn't belong in this world. The whisper came again, clearer this time. Open. The hatch. My knees nearly buckled. No, I said, voice trembling. I'm not opening anything. The shadow froze. Then it collapsed, flattening instantly, as if someone had stomped on it. It slid across the floor like a retreating tide, rushing back toward the cat. The cat didn't move. The shadow reattached itself beneath it, snapping into place like a puzzle piece. The cat blinked once, then it turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness of the observatory's main hall. I stood alone in the silence, shaking, the flashlight trembling in my hand. The tapping resumed. this time from inside the walls. I didn't go back to sleep. I sat in the hallway for nearly an hour, flashlight in hand, staring at the walls as the tapping continued. It wasn't frantic or aggressive. It was patient, rhythmic, almost conversational tap, pause tap like someone waiting for me to answer. The cat had vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone with the sound. I tried to convince myself it was pipes, or settling wood, or some animal trapped inside the walls. But the observatory was stone and steel. There were no pipes, no hollow spaces, no reason for anything to be moving inside the walls. Eventually the tapping stopped. Silence returned. Thick, suffocating, absolute. I forced myself to stand. My legs felt weak, my breath shallow. I needed air. I needed distance from the hatch, from the whisper, from the shadow that had risen like a half-formed thing. I stepped outside. The night was unnaturally still. No wind, no insects, no distant rustle of trees, just the cold, sharp air of the mountain pressing against my skin. The sky above the observatory was clear, impossibly clear. Stars burned brighter than I'd ever seen them, sharp enough to hurt my eyes. My father used to say the summit had unnatural visibility, but I'd always assumed he meant the lack of light pollution. Now I wasn't so sure. As I stared upward, something shifted in the corner of my vision, a flicker, a ripple, like a star blinking out and back in again. But not because of clouds. Because something passed in front of it, something that left no shape, no outline, just a distortion. A wound in the sky. I blinked hard. The distortion blinked back. I stumbled, breath catching in my throat. The stars around it seemed to bend, as if gravity itself were warping. The ripple widened, then narrowed, then vanished entirely. The silence deepened. Behind me, the observatory door creaked open. I turned slowly. The cat stood in the doorway, its amber eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Its normal shadow stretched behind it. Its second shadow stretched toward me. Longer than before. Thinner, more defined. "Stay back," I whispered. The second shadow froze. The cat didn't. It stepped outside, padding silently across the stone path. Its fur didn't stir in the cold air. Its breath didn't fog. It moved like something that wasn't entirely bound to the rules of the world. It stopped at my feet and looked up at me. For a moment, I thought I saw something reflected in its eyes. Not my face, not the observatory, but the distortion in the sky. A shape behind the stars. A presence watching from the dark. The cat blinked, and the whisper came again. Not from the walls, not from the hatch, from directly behind me. "Daniel?" I spun around. No one was there, but the voice had been mine. Not an imitation, not a distortion. My voice, my tone, my breath, as if I had spoken without meaning to, as if something inside me had called my own name. I staggered back, heart pounding. The cat's second shadow twitched, rising slightly as if reacting to my fear. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." The cat turned and walked back toward the observatory, pausing at the door to look over its shoulder. It wanted me to follow, but I couldn't move, because the whisper came again, soft, intimate, brushing the back of my neck like a cold fingertip. This time it didn't say my name, it said, "Open the hatch." I didn't go back inside right away. I stood on the stone path, staring at the observatory door where the cat had disappeared, trying to steady my breathing. The cold air burned my lungs, my hands shook. The whisper, my own voice whispering to me, still echoed in my skull. "Open the hatch." No, I wasn't going near it. But the mountain had other plans. A low rumble rolled beneath my feet, subtle at first, then stronger. The stones vibrated, the air thickened. For a moment I thought it was an earthquake, but the trees didn't move, the sky didn't shift. Only the ground beneath the observatory trembled, as if something deep below was stirring. The rumble stopped as suddenly as it began. Silence returned. I forced myself to step back inside. The hallway was darker than before, as if the shadows had thickened in my absence. My flashlight flickered when I turned it on, the beam weak and jittery. I swept it across the floor. The hatch was still bolted shut. But the padlock was open, hanging loosely from the latch. My stomach dropped. "I didn't touch it," I whispered. "I didn't touch it." The cat sat beside the hatch, tail curled neatly around its paws. Its amber eyes glowed faintly. Its normal shadow lay beneath it. Its second shadow was pressed flat against the hatch. like a hand holding it closed. The cat blinked once. The second shadow blinked too. I stepped closer, heart pounding. The padlock swung gently, tapping against the metal. Tap, tap, tap. The same rhythm I'd heard in the walls. "Did you open it?" I whispered. The cat didn't move, but the second shadow twitched, a small, involuntary shiver like a muscle spasm. I knelt beside the hatch, careful not to touch it. The metal was icy cold, colder than the air around it. Frost had formed along the edges, thin and delicate, like veins spreading outward. I pressed my ear to the surface silence. Then a breath slow, wet, close. I jerked back, nearly falling over. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." The cat stood and walked a few steps away, as if giving me space. Its second shadow peeled itself from the hatch and slid across the floor, returning to its place beneath the cat like a loyal dog. The hatch thumped once, from the inside. The thump came again, louder, harder, as if something below had struck the metal with a fist. Then a voice rose from beneath the floor, not a whisper this time. A voice, my father's voice. "Daniel, open it, please." My breath caught in my throat. "No," I whispered, "you're dead. You're dead." The voice came again, strained, desperate. "Daniel, it's dark. Let me out." I shook my head violently. "You're not him. You're not him." The cat stepped between me and the hatch. Its fur bristled. Its back arched. A low, guttural sound rumbled from its throat. Not a hiss, not a growl. Something deeper, something primal. The second shadow rose behind it, tall and thin, stretching upward like a figure standing guard. The hatch thumped again. Harder, the metal bent outward, just slightly, but enough to see. Something was pushing from below. Something with fingers. Long, thin, jointed fingers that scraped against the underside of the hatch, leaving deep gouges in the steel. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The cat hissed, a sharp, violent sound that echoed through the hall. The fingers retreated. The voice fell silent. The hatch stopped moving. The cat turned to me, eyes glowing brighter now, almost burning. It blinked once, a warning, a command, a plea, I didn't know which, but I knew one thing. Whatever was beneath the hatch wasn't my father, and it wanted me to open the door. The next morning, the mountain felt different. Not calmer, not safer. Just watchful. I stepped outside at dawn, hoping sunlight would make the night's horrors feel distant, like a bad dream dissolving in daylight. But the air was colder than before, sharp enough to sting my lungs. Frost clung to the stones even though it was early autumn. The trees stood unnaturally still, their branches rigid, as if frozen mid-movement. The cat followed me out, silent as always, its normal shadow stretched behind it in the morning light. Its second shadow stretched sideways toward the forest, pointing like an accusing finger. "What now?" I muttered. The cat blinked once, then sat down, staring at the tree line. I followed its gaze. Something was wrong with the forest. The trees closest to the observatory were darker than the others, not in color, but in outline. Their shadows were too long, too sharp, stretching in directions that didn't match the sun. And between the trunks, I saw movement. Not animals, not wind. Shapes. Tall, thin. Shapes that flickered like heat haze. Bending the air around them, I stepped back instinctively. The cat's second shadow twitched, rising slightly as if reacting to the shapes. "What are those?" I whispered. The cat didn't answer, of course, but it stood and began walking toward the observatory's side entrance, the one that led to my father's old study. I hesitated, glancing back at the forest. The shapes had stopped moving. They were facing me now, watching. I followed the cat. Inside, the study was exactly as my father had left it, cluttered, chaotic, filled with notebooks and star charts pinned to the walls. But now that I looked closely, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The charts weren't of known constellations. They were maps of the mountain, star maps of the ground. Lines connected points across the summit, forming constellations made of stone, not stars. And at the center of every map, every single one, was the observatory. My father had circled it over and over, sometimes carving the circle so deeply into the paper that it tore. "What were you doing?" I whispered. The cat jumped onto the desk, scattering papers. Beneath them was a single sheet, heavier than the rest. A photograph. I froze. It showed the observatory 50 years ago, newer, cleaner. But the disturbing part wasn't the building, it was the people. A group of researchers stood in front of the entrance, smiling stiffly at the camera, and at their feet sat the same black cat. Unchanged, same fur, same eyes, same posture, same second shadow. My stomach twisted. I flipped the photo over. On the back in my father's handwriting were 3 words, "The mountain remembers." A chill crawled up my spine. The cat nudged another notebook toward me. I opened it. The first page read, "The entity beneath the hatch is not the anomaly. The anomaly is the mountain itself." I swallowed hard. The next page, "It does not watch the stars, it watches us watching them." A sudden thump shook the floorboards beneath my feet. I froze. Another thump, louder, closer. The hatch. The thing beneath it was awake again. The cat hissed, fur bristling, second shadow, rising like a dark flame behind it. The thumping grew frantic. Then a voice rose from below. Not my father's this time. A chorus. Hundreds of voices whispering in unison. "Daniel, Daniel." My name echoed through the floor, vibrating the walls, rattling the windows. The cat leapt from the desk and ran toward the hall. I followed, heart pounding. The hatch was bulging upward, metal bending, frost spreading across the floor like veins of ice. The voices grew louder. "Open the hatch." I stumbled back, covering my ears. The cat's second shadow rose fully upright, tall, thin, humanoid, and pressed itself against the hatch, holding it down with impossible strength. The voices screamed, the metal groaned, the mountain trembled. And for the first time, I understood whatever was beneath the hatch wasn't trapped. It was being held back. By the cat, by its shadow, by something older than the observatory, something the mountain remembered, and something that remembered me. The hatch finally fell silent. Not peacefully, not naturally. More like something below had paused to listen. The cat remained crouched beside it, fur bristled, second shadow still risen like a tall, thin guardian. The air around the hatch shimmered faintly as if heat were rising from it. Except the air was freezing. Frost spread across the floorboards in delicate branching patterns, reaching toward my feet like searching fingers. I backed away. The cat's second shadow lowered slowly, folding itself back beneath the animal like a creature returning to sleep. The cat blinked once, then turned and walked toward the far end of the hall, away from the hatch, away from the voices, toward a door I hadn't noticed before. It was narrow, almost hidden behind a tall metal cabinet. A thin line of darkness marked its outline, as if the wood had been burned around the edges. The cat sat in front of it and looked at me. "You want me to open that?" I whispered. The cat blinked. Its second shadow didn't. I approached cautiously. The door had no handle, no lock, no hinges, just a smooth wooden surface with a faint symbol carved into it, a circle split down the middle by a jagged line. The same symbol I'd seen in my father's notes. The same symbol etched into the frost around the hatch. I pressed my palm against the wood. It was warm, warmer than anything else in the observatory. The door pulsed beneath my hand, a slow, rhythmic throb, like a heartbeat. I jerked back. "What is this?" I whispered. The cat stepped forward and pressed its forehead against the door. The wood shuddered. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the floorboards, through my bones, through the mountain itself. The door slid open, not outward, not inward. It slid sideways into the wall like a stone panel in an ancient tomb. Behind it was a staircase, descending into darkness. A cold draft rose from below, carrying the scent of damp stone and something older. Something metallic, like rusted iron or dried blood. The air felt heavy, thick with pressure, as if the mountain were exhaling. I hesitated. The cat descended the first step. Its normal shadow followed. Its second shadow did not. It stretched upward along the wall, tall and thin, pointing deeper into the darkness like a warning or a guide. I swallowed hard and followed. The staircase spiraled downward, carved directly into the mountain. The walls were rough stone, etched with symbols I didn't recognize. Circles, lines, constellations that didn't exist in any sky I knew. The deeper we went, the colder it became. My breath fogged in the air. My fingers numbed. The cat moved silently ahead of me. The second shadow moved behind me. I didn't dare look back. After what felt like minutes or hours, the staircase opened into a vast chamber. I froze. The room was enormous, carved into the heart of the mountain, the ceiling arched high above, lost in darkness. The walls were covered in carvings, thousands of them, depicting figures kneeling before a tall, thin shape with no face. At the center of the chamber stood a stone pedestal. On it lay a metal object. A key, long, black, cold, shaped like a split circle. The same symbol again. The cat jumped onto the pedestal and sat beside the key. Its second shadow rose behind it, stretching toward the ceiling like a column of darkness. I approached slowly, heart pounding. "What is this place?" I whispered. The cat blinked. The chamber answered. A deep, resonant voice, not human, not singular, echoed through the stone. "The first door is weakening." I stumbled back, breath caught in my throat. The cat's second shadow turned toward me, and the voice spoke again. "The hatch is not the door you should fear." The chamber trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The cat nudged the key toward me. The voice whispered one final time, soft as breath, "The second door must not open." I stared at the key, at the cat, at the rising shadow, and I realized something terrible. The hatch upstairs wasn't the real threat. This door was, and I was standing in front of the key that could open it. I didn't want to touch the key. Even from a distance, it radiated a cold so deep it felt like it was pulling heat from the air. Frost clung to the pedestal, spreading outward in thin, branching veins. The chamber itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting. The cat sat beside the key, perfectly still. Its normal shadow lay beneath it. Its second shadow rose behind it like a tall, thin figure carved from darkness. I swallowed hard. "What happens if I take it?" I whispered. The cat blinked once. The second shadow didn't blink at all. I reached out slowly, hesitating inches above the metal. The cold stung my skin before I even touched it. My fingers trembled. My breath fogged in the air. The moment my fingertips brushed the key, the chamber reacted. The carvings on the walls, the kneeling figures, the tall, faceless shape began to glow with a faint, sickly light. The air vibrated. Dust drifted from the ceiling. A low hum rose from the stone, deep and resonant, like the mountain itself was waking. I snatched my hand back. The glow faded. The hum stopped. Silence returned. The cat looked at me. Unblinking, "You want me to take it," I whispered. The cat blinked again. The second shadow leaned toward me. I closed my eyes, took a breath, and grabbed the key. The cold shot up my arm like a bolt of ice, numbing my fingers, then my wrist, then my entire forearm. I gasped, nearly dropping it, but forced myself to hold on. The metal pulsed in my hand, slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The chamber reacted instantly. The carvings lit up again, brighter this time. The hum deepened. The air thickened. The stone beneath my feet trembled, and then I heard it. A voice, not the chorus from beneath the hatch, not the whisper that mimicked my own voice. This voice was singular. "Close. The second door must not turn." I staggered back, clutching the key. The cat hissed, fur bristling, second shadow rising taller, stretching toward the ceiling like a column of smoke. The voice echoed again, louder. "The first door is failing. The hatch upstairs. The thing beneath it." The voice is calling my name. I felt the mountain tremble beneath me, a deep rolling shudder that rattled the chamber walls. Dust rained down. A crack split across the ceiling. The cat leapt from the pedestal and ran toward the staircase, pausing only to look back at me. Its second shadow pointed upward, toward the hatch, toward the thing trying to break free. I followed, clutching the key so tightly my knuckles burned. The staircase shook as I climbed, stone groaning beneath my feet. The air grew warmer, not comforting warm, but feverish, like the breath of something enormous rising from below. When I reached the top, I froze. The hatch was bulging upward, the metal bent like soft clay. Frost spread across the floor in frantic, branching patterns. The voices were louder now, not whispers, not pleas, but screams. "Daniel, Daniel, open, open!" The cat stood between me and the hatch, back arched, fur raised, second shadow towering behind it like a guardian made of night. The metal groaned. A crack split across the hatch. A long, thin finger pushed through. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The cat hissed, a sound so sharp and violent it cut through the screams. The second shadow slammed itself against the hatch, pressing the metal down with impossible force. The voices shrieked. The finger retreated. The crack sealed. Silence fell. The cat turned to me. Its eyes glowed brighter than ever. Its second shadow pointed at the key in my hand, and I understood the hatch wasn't going to hold much longer. The first door was failing, and the second door, the one deep in the mountain, was the only thing keeping whatever was beneath the hatch from becoming something far worse. The key pulsed in my hand. Slow, cold. Waiting, and I realized with a sinking dread, I wasn't meant to open the second door. I was meant to lock it. The key pulsed in my hand like a living thing. Cold, slow. Patient, the cat stood in the hallway, staring at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Its normal shadow lay beneath it. Its second shadow stretched across the floor toward the hatch, as if bracing itself for what was coming. The mountain trembled again, a deep, rolling shudder that rattled the windows and sent dust drifting from the ceiling. The hatch bulged upward, metal bending like soft clay. Frost spread across the floor in frantic, branching patterns. The voices rose, not whispers, not screams. Something worse. A chorus of thousands, layered and distorted, as if the mountain itself was speaking through every throat it had ever swallowed. "Daniel, Daniel!" I stumbled back, clutching the key so tightly my fingers went numb. The cat hissed, a violent, guttural sound that echoed through the hall. Its second shadow rose behind it, tall and thin, stretching toward the ceiling like a pillar of darkness. The hatch cracked. A long, jagged split tore across the metal. A hand pushed through. Not a human hand. Too many joints, too long, too thin. The fingers scraped against the floorboards, leaving deep gouges in the wood. I gagged, stumbling backward. "No, no, no," the voices shrieked. "Open, open!" The cat lunged at the hatch, slamming its body against the metal. The second shadow followed, pressing itself flat against the crack, sealing it with impossible force. The hand retreated. The voices fell silent. But the mountain did not. A low rumble rose from deep below, vibrating through the floor, through my bones, through the air itself. The walls shook, the lights flickered. The observatory dome groaned overhead. The cat turned to me. Its eyes glowed brighter than ever. Its second shadow pointed toward the staircase. The one leading down to the second door. The key pulsed again, slow, cold, waiting. I shook my head. I don't know how to lock it. I don't know what to do. The cat blinked once. The second shadow moved. It stretched across the floor, sliding toward me like a living ribbon of darkness. It wrapped around my wrist, not touching, not gripping, just guiding, and pulled gently toward the staircase. "You want me to go back down?" I whispered. The shadow tightened. A yes. I followed, heart pounding, legs trembling. The staircase shook beneath my feet as the mountain rumbled again. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The air grew colder with every step. When I reached the chamber, I froze. The carvings on the walls were glowing again, brighter than before, pulsing in time with the key in my hand. The tall, faceless figure carved into the stone seemed to shift, its outline warping, bending, as if trying to step out of the wall. The cat entered the chamber behind me. Its second shadow rose, stretching toward the pedestal. Deep, resonant, ancient. The first door is failing. I swallowed hard. I know. The second door must hold. The key pulsed violently in my hand. The pedestal began to shift, stone grinding against stone. A circular indentation opened at its center. The exact shape of the key. The cat looked at me. Its second shadow pointed at the pedestal. I stepped forward, trembling. The mountain roared. The hatch upstairs screamed. The voices rose in a deafening chorus. "Daniel! Daniel, stop, stop!" I lifted the key. The chamber shook. The carvings writhed. The faceless figure on the wall leaned forward. The cat hissed, second shadow rising like a shield. I placed the key into the pedestal. The moment it touched stone, the chamber exploded with light. Cold white. Blinding, the mountain screamed. The hatch slammed shut. The voices were cut off mid-word. And for the first time since I arrived, the silence felt alive. Breathing, watching, waiting, the light faded slowly, not like a lamp being switched off, but like a dying star. Collapsing inward, folding into itself, leaving behind a cold, hollow silence. When my vision cleared, I was lying on the chamber floor, the key still embedded in the pedestal, The carvings on the walls no longer glowed. They watched. The tall, faceless figure carved into the stone seemed closer than before, its outline sharper, its presence heavier. The air felt thick, as if the mountain were holding its breath. The cat sat beside me, its normal shadow lay beneath it. Its second shadow stood upright, tall, thin, humanoid, watching me with a stillness that made my skin crawl. I pushed myself up, trembling. "Is it done?" I whispered. The cat blinked once. The second shadow didn't blink at all. A deep rumble rolled through the chamber. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The stone beneath my feet vibrated. The mountain was not calm. It was adjusting, shifting, reacting to what I had done. The voice returned. Not a scream, not a whisper, a statement. "The first door is sealed." I exhaled shakily. The hatch upstairs, the thing beneath it. The voices calling my name sealed. Contained for now, but the voice continued. "The second door is weakened." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" I whispered. The chamber trembled again. A crack split across the far wall, thin but growing. Cold air rushed through it, not natural cold, but something deeper, older, wrong. The cat hissed, fur bristling. Its second shadow rose higher, stretching toward the crack like a shield. The voice spoke again, softer now. "The mountain remembers." The crack widened. A thin, pale hand, too long, too jointed, reached through. I stumbled back, heart pounding. No, the cat leapt forward, slamming its body against the crack. The second shadow followed, pressing itself flat against the stone, sealing the opening with impossible force. The hand retreated. The crack stopped growing. Silence returned. The cat turned to me. Its eyes glowed brighter than ever, not amber now, but something deeper, something ancient. Its second shadow lowered slowly, folding itself back beneath the animal like a creature returning to sleep. I swallowed hard. "What are you?" I whispered. The cat blinked. The second shadow blinked too. The voice answered for it. "The Watcher." I stared at the cat. "The Watcher of what?" The voice echoed through the chamber. "Of doors." The cat stepped toward me, tail low, posture calm. Its second shadow rose slightly, as if acknowledging the truth. "Why me?" I whispered. "Why bring me here? Why show me all this?" The voice softened. "The mountain chose you." I shook my head. "I don't want this. The mountain does not ask." The chamber trembled again, not violently, but rhythmically, like a heartbeat. A heartbeat beneath the stone. A heartbeat of something vast, something alive. The cat walked past me toward the staircase. It paused at the first step and looked back. Its second shadow pointed upward, toward the observatory, toward the world above, toward my new responsibility. I followed slowly, legs trembling, breath shallow. When we reached the top of the staircase, the observatory was silent. The hatch was sealed. Frost covered the floor in delicate patterns, but the metal no longer bulged. The voices were gone. The cat sat beside the hatch. Its second shadow stretched across the floor like a dark guardian. I understood. The first door was sealed. The second door was weakened, and the mountain had chosen me to stand between them. I knelt beside the cat. It blinked once. The second shadow blinked too. "I'll stay," I whispered. "I'll whispered. I'll watch." The cat pressed its head gently against my hand. The mountain rumbled, not in anger, not in warning, but in acknowledgement. Outside, the wind began to blow again. The forest moved. The world breathed, but inside the observatory the silence remained, alive, watchful, waiting. The cat curled beside the hatch, its second shadow rose behind it. And I understood the final truth. Some doors are not meant to open. Some shadows are not meant to be alone, and some mountains never forget the ones they choose.